Today is May 25th, 2005, and I'm Jessica Clark, the Teresa Mack Germans from Russia History Fellow and Coordinator for the Germans from Russia Oral History Project. It is a pleasure to visit with Alma in Gackle, North Dakota. Please state your full name and maiden name, and then your date and location of birth.
Alma Janke Schott, 12/6/22.
And location.
Gackle, North Dakota.
Okay, and we'll do a couple, let's see here, a couple introductory questions next. On your biography form, you stated that you were born on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Did your parents ever tell you any stories about that?
No, they didn't.
They didn't?
Mm.
Did a doctor come, do you know, or was
No,
it
midwives.
Midwife?
I don't. My mother had all her children with midwives,
Okay.
and we were all born on the farm.
How many children?
Well, Mom and Dad had 7 children. The oldest one and the youngest one died.
Okay. Can you go through in order and tell me their names, if you?
Okay. The oldest one was Wally, Edmund Harold Janke, Alma Janke Schott, Rachel Art Schmidt, and Mary Lou Schweigert, Janke Schweigert, and Wilbert Andrew Janke.
Okay. So was it the 2 sons that died, or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The oldest and the youngest one was a baby, but the oldest one I don't know.
Thinking back, what is your earliest memory? Do you know, like, the first thing you remember is?
Well,
around the first thing?
I can remember far back, but maybe I would say when I was about starting 7, I knew at 8 years old and 9 years I started milking cows.
Is that something that you enjoyed doing, or?
Well, I guess we had to do it. That was a living, bring our cream money and cream for the houses, milk and all that. That was one nice thing on the farm. You didn't have to go and buy milk, cream, or have your own,
Where was your father born?
I think in Barras. Friedenstahl, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's in my history book.
Russia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Russia, yeah. Mm-hmm.
When did his family move to the United States?
You have to look it up.
Look it up, yeah.
And the family history there.
Family history one, it's underneath that one, yeah.
Andrew, his name is really Andres. Andres.
Andres?
Yeah. He was born in Friedenstahl, Bessarabia, South Russia, on January 1st, 1867.
Okay. And why you haven't opened, do you know where your mom was born?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I know.
But it was over in Russia?
Yeah. Okay. I know where they lived as they grew up.
Okay, where's that?
North of Fredonia.
Okay.
And then my mom.
Yeah.
Okay. My mom, I don't know, she must have been around 17 or 18 years old. She worked for people west of Gackle, and their name was Borth. And anyway, she had people who were poor at that time, and they were a big family, so they had to go out and earn little money. And so my mom was confirmed in Streeter. And there was only 3 girls that were confirmed at that time. And one was a Remick, and one was a Sinker girl and mom.
Mm-hmm. How large? You said your mother's family was large. How many brothers and sisters did she have?
There were 7 sisters and 4 brothers. And the oldest brother is on my home cemetery. There's a son living there, laying there.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters did your father have?
There was 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
Also, it was a smaller family.
Mm-hmm.
On this side. Okay. How would you describe your father's character?
Such as?
What, was he a funny man? Was he serious?
He was a very good father. He never really scolded us, and he never spanked us, and he was an easygoing man, and he was a good provider, very good provider.
Did he show a lot of affection towards his children?
I guess so. I don't know.
Were you close to him as a child?
Oh yes, yeah. I had good parents, my father and my mother. My mother was a little stricter, and she was something like I am, nice, and she did a lot of, like when we girls grew up, she made all our clothes, and she tried to have her children always neat, dressed neatly.
Where did she made the clothes for the children?
She used newspapers to make a pattern.
Okay.
And then she sewed the dresses for us.
Where would she get the fabric from?
Well, we had a clothing store in Galco at that time.
Okay.
And you could buy it cheap at that time, too. So.
Did she ever order any clothing?
We did later on as we went to school. We did, yes.
Okay.
And we had M.W. Savage. That was from Chicago.
Okay.
That was our main catalog at that time.
Okay. What type of work did your father do?
Farmer.
Farmer?
Farmer all his life.
What type of farm? Was it a dairy farm? Grain
Well,
farm?
we did everything, grain and corn and cattle, range cattle, milk cows, and everything.
Did he ever do any other type of work while he was farming? No.
One time, WPA had a project one summer. Well, it was fall, kind of. And they built a road 56 to Judd, to Lamar County. And they did that road by horses and those buckets. And my dad worked one day. That was the last day of September. And the 1st of October, my baby brother was born. And he never worked on the WPA. Just one day he worked.
One day?
He was not he tried to do his own. He didn't like any help.
Okay. And what did your mother do?
She's a housewife. She never went, nothing else but.
So she never worked anywhere else, she was the house. Ran the house.
Yeah, she ran the house.
Managed the kids and ran
Always
the house.
had big gardens. There was a lot of food.
What types of things did she grow in her gardens?
Everything. Corn and potatoes. We hauled the potatoes in with the double box with the horse and wagon in the fall. And watermelons and muskmelons. Oh, we had lots of food.
Was the garden close to the house?
Yeah. Well, we lived close to a highway, and we had it to the other side of the highway, and that was just across, so we didn't have to go far.
Was it a fairly large garden?
Yes.
I imagine?
Mm-hmm. It was kind of a piece that Dad saved from his cropland, you know.
Okay. How would all of the kids help take care of the garden?
Well, the girls usually. The boy, like my oldest brother, had field work or whatever had to be done. But we all helped along. Like, I didn't help out in the springtime. Maybe I had the horses on the disc, and I had one of those 6-foot discs. And my dad went to town, and he bought a big disc. Oh, I don't know how many feet it was. So they did in one day what I did in a week.
Oh.
Cultivated in a week. Yeah.
Oh. Russia. Were all of his brothers and sisters born in Russia, or were some born in the United States?
Well, I think the youngest sister, I think, was
born over here.
And let's see if I said something about Aunt Mary.
So who put this family history together?
My dad's cousin's daughter.
Okay. Did it take her a while to do the research?
Oh yeah. Well, it was this summer after our centennial. Fredonia had their centennial. They had a reunion in Cullum. And they were like from my grandpa's brother's family. And was her dad's, was a son. And then their daughter did this history for me. And she lives at Ellendale. Yeah, she was born in Friedenstall, Basarabia in South Russia. Yeah. And let's see, I'm here with Aunt Martha, so. She was born at Fredonia. So,
so the youngest one was born
in the United States, yeah.
Okay. Do you know why your grandparents decided to move their family to the United States?
Pardon?
Do you know why they moved to the United States, by chance?
They never said. No.
Just
Grandma would say, oh, we came from, they said Dorf for a village.
Okay.
In German it was Dorf.
Okay.
And she'd always say, oh, we had this and we raised this at the Dorf, at the village. You know. But she never really said why they came.
Did they come straight to this area, or did they settle other places?
No, I think they were at Eureka. They came as far as Eureka.
Okay. Going back to your father, do you ever remember him having hard times on the farm as far as keeping the farm successful?
In 1936, 35 and 36, we had a drought. I was confirmed in 36. Okay. There was no crop. The crop was like this. It was like over 100 degrees for a long time in the summertime. So that there was nothing. We made thistles for hay for the cattle. We'd be in the haystacks.
Yeah. How did your family, how did they have to alter their life to get through that year?
Well, we just had to buy less, and we had enough food for the cattle, so we kept on milking cows. So that's what it was, and we always raised chickens, and we all had our eggs and our meat. We set eggs with the clucks.
How did your family's garden fare during that weather?
We didn't have much, no. And if we did, we had to water to save some of it. And we had to haul our water. We had a spring, in the pasture. It was quite far. So we always had we had nice soft water, but we had to haul our water. In the summertime, we had barrels with one horse and a stone boat.
How far would you haul your water to? How was it far from the house? Was it?
Oh, that was almost a quarter mile.
That's a good distance.
In the pasture, yeah.
Your mother. How would you describe your mother?
Let's see. Well, she was a little chubby lady. But she was a nice mother too. Yes. But when she told us something, we had to listen.
She was the strict one in the family.
She was stricter than my dad. Yes.
If any of you kids got into some mischief, who would do more of the disciplining?
Mom.
Your mom?
Yeah. Or we get... And Dad didn't do that.
Oh, okay.
I got one spanking from my dad.
Really?
And
What
it
was
was
that
my
for?
fault. I'm my sister. My mom and dad went away Sunday afternoon, and we had a garden not far from the house, and our pigs would get out once in a while. So they went away, and then my dad said, "You stay at home, watch those pigs." Well, when they were gone, my sister said, "Let's go to the Mike Gumpkes." They were our neighbors, not far. We went there, and you know what? Them pigs got out and got in the garden. Boy, we got it with a tree wick.
Oh no.
Twig.
Oh. Yeah,
Oh,
you
that's the
said.
only time that I remember got a spanking. And that wasn't much.
Hmm. Um, let's see. Do you remember when your younger brothers and sisters were born? Do you remember that
I
experience?
remember my Wilbert, my youngest brother.
Okay. What was that like for you?
Well, we, let's see, how should I put it? I can remember my youngest sister too. Um, we lived, well, we always lived on the farm. But anyway, my dad went to town, and my oldest brother and I, we were hauling hay, putting hay in the upstairs, barn upstairs. And anyway, my mom called for Dad to come home. Well, when we come in from hauling hay, there was a baby in the house. So he had to bring the midwife.
So your mom delivered the baby by herself then?
No,
The
Dad,
midwife?
yeah,
Okay.
midwife, yeah.
Okay.
And that was in 1934, February 3rd. And it was such a beautiful day. It was just, the water was running in the yard, and it was just a beautiful day.
How did a baby change your family life? As far
Well,
as
we were a little bit older, so I guess it does, yeah.
yeah, what type of responsibilities did you have with the new babies in the house?
Well, we went in, and here's this baby, and well, what could we do, here? Oh, this is so nice, a girl. And she had red hair like my dad.
And then you also said you remember your brother's birth. What was that?
Yeah, he was born in October, yeah, 1st, yeah.
Where were you when he was born?
Oh, we had to go over to the neighbors.
Okay.
We had neighbors that we lived, and then there was a school in the middle, and then the neighbors.
Oh, so how far was the school from your house?
Oh, just a few feet.
2 feet, and then the neighbors would be a few feet more from there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's real close.
Yeah.
Um,
And their names were Kristen Mary Klein.
did they have children your age?
No, they had a son, and only one son, and he was married. And they had children, and they lived with the parents.
Okay.
And I remember 2 of the children they had, and then they moved away. They moved to Washington.
Okay. What types of things did your dad and mom stress as important? Like values important to?
Oh, well, they always were worried about getting their bills paid.
Okay.
And that's what Dad was. He wanted his bills paid, And then he bought land, and we're going to get the money to make the payments, and I don't know, he managed.
What about your mom? What was important to her?
Well, her thing was cooking good for the family, and so they have clothes. So we have good clothes for school and everything. She was a good provider too in those ways.
Providing for the family.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But she always, when we got home from school, she had those big loaves of bread. She made such good bread. And she made them in pie tins, like round. Okay. And when she cut the bread, she took them under her arm. I can still see it, and then cut the bread. And then we came from school, and that's what we had for lunch. Oh. And then we had to go out and do chores. So
was school only half day then?
No, all day.
What time would you start school in the morning?
Oh, like now, 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
And then get done.
And we only had 7 months of school then.
Okay. Mm. Okay.
but I never, well, after my dad and mother moved to my grandpa's place, my grandpa and grandma couldn't be on the farm any longer, and so my dad took their lawn over, and we lived there then. And so I walked maybe a little better than a half a mile, but I was already in the 7th grade then.
Oh, okay. So you were almost done with grade
Yes.
school. Okay. Did your parents ever tell you what they hoped you would be when you grew up?
Well, I don't know, not really. At those days it was different, I guess.
Okay.
Well, you get up, well, I'm the only one the boys didn't get high school, but both my sisters did.
Okay.
But I was the second oldest, and my dad wouldn't let me go to high school because he said, oh, you don't need any, you'll be a housewife anyway. And I only missed one day of school of all my school days.
Okay. So you never went on then to high school?
No.
You finished grade school? What types of things would you say your mom was strict about? What things that she just did not want you to be doing?
Be careful. Was the word all the time. Don't do this and don't do that. Especially when we started going out. That was really strict.
What types of things would she warn you about? So similar things that they warned about today.
Yes, yes. And not staying out late at nighttime.
What time did they usually expect you home?
Well, 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And if we stayed out later and it was time to go milking in the morning, and my dad knocked on the door, it's milking time. And if we didn't come out right away, he'd say, the night is to sleep and not run around.
Sounds like good advice.
Parents were strict, and we knew when they said they meant it.
So just because you were out late, you were still expected to follow through with your
Oh yeah, we had to do our work.
How would you say your parents influenced your life? What types of things do you look back and say, I got that from my mom, or I got that from my dad?
Well, I mean, as from my mother is what I'm doing now, because her and I didn't go to high school, we had those little round burner lights sitting on the table. There was no electricity at those days, and we did a lot of fancy work. Okay. I did embroidery, and my mom did sewing, or we were quilting. So this is what all those things that I'm doing now, and I like to cook like she did. And she always wanted me to be a cake decorator, and she didn't learn to live long enough to know. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure she'd be proud of that for them to see.
Yeah, because I worked many years before I really did get started, and I didn't take any schooling on it, just all on experience.
How did you start cake decorating? When did you start doing that?
Well, in 1966, I started baking for the banker.
Okay.
And started cake decorating then. But I usually cooked for him for the country club. Okay. And it was always chocolate cake and baked potatoes and homemade bread. And I'd make 10 loaves of bread in one day, and I made and sometimes scalloped potatoes.
Oh my.
And then from then on, I started so slow for other people.
Did it take you a while you have some very elegant looking cakes, pictures of cakes. Did it take you a while to master?
Oh, yes. And I didn't have money to buy material, like getting the pillars to stack the cakes. Mm-hmm. I did what I had. Sometimes I used sherbet glasses for legs. Whatever I had in my house, I made. I used, yes.
So it's handy to...
Till if I had a little money, I'd kind of get the stand with the pillars and all that. So I have got lots of money invested in that right now.
It's beautiful work that you do.
Thank you.
When you think back to your parents, how would you describe their relationship with each other? Did they have a pretty good
Yes, they did,
marriage?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Did they show a lot of affection towards each other? Yeah. When they weren't working, which probably close to never.
Yeah,
What types
but
of things
it
would
was
they do?
different. If they did their thing, we never, I mean, like getting close, holding hands or that.
Okay.
We never saw that.
Okay.
No. It was always when we were, I think there was more privacy. Parents had more privacy.
Okay.
Yes, they were respectable to their children. Yeah.
What types of things did they do when they weren't working?
Well, Dad liked to play cards. He'd go to town and he'd play cards, but Mom didn't. She did something in the house, like fancy work or whatever, yeah, especially in the wintertime, yeah.
Okay.
But Dad, in the winter, he helped the boys, well, really my oldest brother, to work outside to help with the feeding and that. My dad helped along, yeah.
Do you know what type of card games your dad played?
Well, whist was mainly, or pitch.
Okay.
Pitch. Okay. I never learned to play pitch, but I love to play whist.
How do you play whist? I've never...
Well, you have your full hand of cards, only you have your pass and your grand.
Okay.
If you have a good hand, you grand it, and if you didn't, you pass.
Okay.
You always try not to take the trick. Okay. And when you grand it, you have to take the trick.
Oh.
Or else you won't make it. And kind of like you bet on it.
So did you play that as a child then?
Well, I was already up to 8th grader, so
okay.
Yeah. My mom never played cards. No.
Never. Mm-hmm. What about your other sisters and brothers today?
Oh yeah, well my oldest brother I know plays pinochle a lot, and my other 2 sisters didn't, and my youngest brother doesn't play cards. Okay.
Do you remember any household rules or family rules that you had growing up that your mom and dad said, this is an absolute rule?
I don't think we had anything because we knew what we can do and we can't do, Okay. But yeah, that's good.
Okay. You've mentioned a couple times your grandparents. Were you close to either set of grandparents?
They lived with us in the same house at one time.
Which
my grandma, Janke, and Grandpa, Christopher. And
how was that living with your grandparents?
Well, it's not like being alone, but we lived in one part and they had the living room and a bedroom.
Okay.
The reason they were with us was when Dad took the farm over, Dad had to fix a house in town for him.
Okay.
And he moved the granary into Gackel, and he had it stuccoed outside and fixed it up for a house, and it was right west of town here.
Is it still standing today?
No, it isn't. So it was like till Dad had the house fixed.
How long was that about?
Maybe a month or so.
Oh, so a very short period.
And that was just the time when my sister Mary Lou was born in February, and I think it was that year when they moved the house.
So how old were you about?
Oh, and maybe it was in the 20s, yeah.
Okay. Was it both your grandfather and your grandmother at that time living with you? Were you close to your grandmother then? I mean, how
Well,
would
I
you
guess we
describe?
were both. And I remember my sister, she started to walk. We had one of those walking chairs for her, and she'd always bump on the door when the door was closed till they opened up so she could go over there.
She wanted to see Grandma.
Yeah, yeah, and she was just really little, yeah.
Did your grandma do a lot of the baking, like your mom did?
No,
Did she do a lot of baking?
they did very skimpy way of cooking. Because when they came in here into this country, they didn't have anything, and she kept on doing just one thing for a meal. That was it.
Really? What did your grandfather do? Was he also into farming then?
Oh yeah, he was a farmer too, but by then he was retired, and so he didn't do anything.
How would you describe your grandmother? You talked about your mom being strict.
Yeah, well,
but
Grandma
also
was too.
She was too.
Grandma was, yeah, very. I think even more so than my mother was, yeah. And that was like my dad's mother and dad. You know.
And how about your grandfather?
He was easygoing. He had, like it shows, he has that little mustache and he had his pipe. And in the evening he said he had big overshoes. He was sitting by the table and he had a muskrat cap. And he'd go sitting like this. And we used to make smoked duck goose legs, and then you smoke it and dry the meat.
Okay.
And he'd have a little knife and had one of the legs or a breast, whatever, and he'd shave that off. And he didn't have any teeth. He didn't like his teeth were in the organ pocket. I just can picture him. But he said with his overshoes in the house.
Oh. When you were growing up, do you remember them ever telling you any stories that you? No.
No.
Did they ever play with you at all?
Oh yeah, and they like to sing.
They like to sing.
Yeah. The old German songs. Yeah.
Do you remember any of the songs?
Gott ist die Liebe. God is love.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's another. Well, I don't really think about it, but Gott ist die Liebe. Liebt auch dich. You love each other, so.
Sound like they were jolly people.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
What about your mother's parents? Did you know them?
I don't know. Yes, I knew my grandma, but I didn't know my grandpa.
Okay.
I guess my aunt, one of my mom's sisters, told me I was only 5 years old when he died.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even know don't remember who he was, but I've seen pictures of him, So.
Yeah.
I know Grandma was a lot bigger, taller than Grandpa was.
Okay.
She was a big woman, very big woman.
Did she live relatively close to you?
Well, they were, yeah, because later in years they lived west of Fredonia and we lived north of Fredonia.
Oh, okay.
But my grandma was bedridden with arthritis for 15 years.
So who took care of her?
One of the daughters, and that was there in North Dakota. Okay. And she took care of her till she died. And so on Saturdays, we had to do some baking or make something. It seemed like we were to Grandma's every Sunday. So Mom wanted to help along. So okay. Her fingers were so crippled, like so. She had her spoon in this way to eat. And she was so very crippled with arthritis.
Was there anything they could do for her?
Not in those days. She couldn't walk anymore. I really don't remember how many years she didn't even get out of bed anymore.
Did they ever tell you how she developed such severe arthritis?
No, I don't know. I just remember just seeing her when she had it. So.
How would you describe her? Was she also strict, or was she little?
Not after I got to know her, that I remember. She was, and she was sick, and
You have a lot of aunts and uncles.
Yes, I do. I do. I have a lot of relatives. Yeah.
Let's start with your dad's side of the family first. Were you close to any of your aunts and uncles on that side?
Yes, I was to Uncle Rudolph and all of them. We're all. In fact, one of Aunt Mary's children, right, lives right across the street here.
Really? Oh.
And he's a carpenter. Denning. Aunt Mary married Denning, Chief Denning. Yes. And at the one, in fact, a few years, my dad was the oldest, and it was Uncle Rudolph and Uncle Jake. And they didn't live we lived all like a little hut place, you know.
Okay.
Like a little dwarf, like to say.
Like a little dwarf, that's right.
And so when it came to harvesting, we all worked together.
Okay.
And I and my cousins, we went shocking or whatever. When we were old enough, we had to be out there helping along. And they were always sometimes I know Uncle Jake's, they had 6 children, and they come over, and any time of the day, Mom would fix something, dinner, half a meal, dinner or supper, whatever it was. Mom was ready to cook.
You had, I think you have 4, is it 4 aunts and uncles on that side, or 3 aunts and uncles on your dad's side?
There was 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
2 brothers, 2 sisters, okay. How many cousins did you have on that side of the family, do you remember? You had 6 in one family. Okay,
and then Dennings had 6. Okay. 5 boys and 1 girl. And let's see, Uncle Rudolph's had 9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 9 children. And my youngest aunt, Martha, she had 3.
So you had a lot of cousins on that side, a lot of help for the farm.
Yes, and we were all close, and there is one from Uncle Rudolph's. Their children are, those 9, they're all in different areas. They're in Wisconsin, they're Colorado, Minneapolis, California. But 2 of my cousins died of cancer, and I knew them all, and we still talk. You bet, and everyone, yeah. And the Denny family and Jake, the family lived at Lear, and their kids are around, excepting one brother, I think, is in South Dakota.
When they would come over after working on the farm and stuff, what types of activities would you guys do to entertain yourself?
Well, we went outside, play ball or whatever. We always find something, yeah.
What type of ball would you play? Was it
baseball? Catch or baseball, yeah.
Okay.
Had a stick. We didn't have a bat. We had a stick.
Used a stick and a ball?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Turning to your mom's side, you had a lot of aunts and uncles on that side. Your mom had a larger family.
Yes.
Were you close to all of your aunts and uncles on that
excepting
side?
one aunt, the oldest sister. She lived at Judd, and we weren't very close until later on years. Now we get together, yes. Okay. And we mainly with all of them, yeah.
And I'm imagining there's a lot of cousins on that side as well.
Oh, man, there is. Oh, yeah, there is, yes.
How close did most of them live to your farm? Were they
None.
None?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So would you say you socialized or were closer than to your dad's side
Yeah,
of the family?
yeah, we were, yeah, because they were all closer around. Okay. But, well, I had Lair, 3 sisters. Mom's sisters were 1, 2, 3. And one was in Judd, and one was in Alfred, little town of Alfred.
Yep.
And then I have the brothers. One died quite young, Henry, and Uncle Jake lived at Wishick, and Uncle George lived close to my farm at one time, and then he moved out to Washington, the state of Washington.
Where at in the state of Washington?
Oh, what was it? Well, it was all of Seattle's. I guess I have to think. Maybe I'll come.
I asked because I'm from Washington State.
Oh, you
so,
are
yes.
that. Okay, okay.
It interests me when I can make
I wish I
connections
could just
to
think and
Washington.
say no. It's
um, with the school being so close to your house and your cousins living in the area, did your cousins go to the same school as you?
we did one family, Uncle Rudolph's, but the other one, uh, we had. There were 4 schools in the district,
Okay.
and so there was 2 on this side in schools and 2 on this side, and the other family lived across the road, so they had to go to the east school.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Okay. Oh, they're on school, so let's continue on with school. How old were you when you started school?
I was very young. My dad and mother lived, at first, they homesteaded quite a ways away from school. And they sent me to school when I was 5 years old, because there was no time limit then. And, well, anyway, I'm left-handed. And my teacher was Mabel Drent. She was from Judd. And she wanted me to write with the right hand. Well, she spanked my hand, sent me home from school. So my mother and dad picked me up, and I had to walk alone through the pasture and home. So they went to the school and they talked to the teacher, and so I could go to school after that. Because, why spank? Because of a left hand.
Of a left hand, yeah.
And I'm still a lefty.
Huh.
And this teacher of mine was quite old. And my husband I was married already when he met her brother. And then he said, well, Mabel was my teacher. And so he said, well, maybe we'll meet her sometime. And we walked into, and then we to a cafe in Jamestown, and here they were sitting. And she was older, and I hadn't seen her for many years. And then she said, you remember me? I said, well, I really didn't, I said. And then we got to talking about school, and she said to me, well, I hope I wasn't too hard on you, but I didn't tell her what happened.
Didn't remind her about the left hand.
No. It wasn't necessary, no, not at all.
When you were in school, do you remember what you wanted to be? Did you have aspirations of being?
Well, first it was beautician.
Really?
You know how you just talk and.
Mm-hmm. You go through different
but
phases.
Nothing really different. But now, after later on in years, I was. But it's too late. I guess it wouldn't be too late to go to school again.
It's never too late.
Never too late. No.
Never
But
too late.
I don't think I will. I got lots of things to do.
Before we started the interview, we were looking at some pictures, and you mentioned that you only missed one day of school.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you miss that one day?
Because I was in school sick. I used to get terrible sore throats when I get the flu. Mm-hmm. So I was in school. So the next day, Mom said, I think you should stay at home from school. And I felt better than I did the first day, but that's the way it was. And so that's why I missed one day of school. I got a certificate in here on the wall.
Oh, well, if you don't mind, we'd like to take a picture of that.
Sure.
Yeah. Did your dad or mom ever have to hold back any of or keep any of the children out of school to help on the farm at any time?
Well, yeah, kind of like the harvesting time. Maybe, yeah. The boys had, yeah. Okay. If we couldn't too often, he couldn't too often, but he did when it was important to get the crop cut down and that, or thrashing.
When you think back to the school, did it have pretty good attendance?
Oh yes, we had a lot of.
This is probably an easy question here. How did you get to school? But since it was so close, I imagined you walked.
Oh, yeah, you will walk. Even when we were further, we had to walk, unless we had a blizzard. Then Dad would take us with the sled and the horses.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What type of school was it? Was it a one-room schoolhouse?
Mm-hmm. In only 8th grades.
First through 8th?
Mm-hmm.
About how many kids attended the school, do you know?
Well, let's see, what was it? We must have had about 20 kids, at least. The schoolhouse was full. And we had some guys that were 14 and 15 years old before they were through 8th grade.
What type of school supplies did you have in the school? What type of, did you have books?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have books, yeah.
What about writing utensils? What type of things did you used to write with?
We had our pencils, and we had ink pens, and yeah. We had to do our penmanship, that was really required, penmanship.
Was it something the school had, or was it something your parents had to buy?
Oh, yeah, we had to buy our own pencils and paper and colors, crayons, yeah.
Would you take that to school with you every day, or just leave it
We left it. We had desks with the
holes
yeah.
in it?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm.
Do you remember your teachers' names?
Pretty well.
Who were they?
First was Mabel Drend.
Okay.
And then it was Pauline Westfall. And then we had Ione Heflin. And I had a Mrs. Erica. Well, Mrs. Anderson was her maiden name, but she married somebody from around here. And Alice Kinser. She was Alice Dumke. Her maiden name was Alice Dumke. And Mabel Geisler, her maiden name was Rohr. And my last teacher was Maudie Moots. Of course, that was her married name, Maudie Chorchison. And she was from Niagara, North Dakota. And her dad brought her down. She taught school from out of high school. And her dad brought her in the fall, and she had to stay till spring. And I had her here for this fall. She's still living, my 8th grade teacher. And she and one of her daughters came to visit me, and we talked about it. And she said, well, I just got like $35, or not even $35 sometimes, and I had to pay my board and room, and I still had money left over, but I couldn't go anyplace. So.
Thinking back to those teachers, well, first, it sounds like the school had to turn over quite a bit of teachers.
Yes, they did, yeah.
They didn't have somebody that was there for a very long time.
Well, yeah, no. Like Mabel Rohr married a guy from our area, so she taught more years, yeah.
Okay.
And so did Alice Dumke. She married a Kinser, and they lived west of our place, so she married somebody from there too.
So you have the marriage ties.
Yeah, she always lived around, yeah, here, yeah.
Thinking back, who would you say was your favorite teacher?
Maudie Chorchison.
Wow.
My last one. She was such a very good teacher. Like when we wrote our alphabets, like your A and your O, if we made your A with a straight straight line, she corrected us right away. And she was very perfect, because I didn't make my arithmetic examination on the 7th grade, so I had to go on, and that really helped. I had a perfect score then.
Oh, good.
And she was a good teacher all the way around, yeah. And she's still the best friend of mine.
That has to be nice to
I
still.
know. We talk on the phone every once in a while, well, she's 6 years older than I am.
Yeah, she came right out of high school.
Yeah.
She would have been young.
Yeah. But we had such a nice time when they came here.
the teachers discipline students? What type of discipline was?
Well, they tamped their foot when it got noisy in the school with so many children.
Really?
Especially,
quiet them down?
oh yeah, Ione Heflin she was a very strict teacher. Mm-hmm.
Would they make you stand in the corner?
Yeah, yes. Or go out in the hallway.
Some have talked about the dreadful rulers. They'd hit the tables with the rulers.
No, I don't think they did much. Yeah,
Not much of that.
But they stamped their foot.
Yeah.
Quiet now.
Can you describe how the school was set up? When you think about the schoolhouse, when you walk in the door, what would it
Well, there was an entry across, like one room, and then they had those fountains, water fountains, and they were like a crock, and that was in the entry usually, and then we had our clothes rack out in the entry, and then we went into school and we had that big stove with the big drums.
Okay.
So that took one corner, and the others were seats. We had some doubles and some singles. Okay. And then the blackboard was from 2 walls was the blackboard. Okay. And the teacher's desk was always facing from the blackboard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What subjects were taught in school?
First to 8th. Mm-hmm. Like arithmetic, reading, writing, all the main things, spelling. We had a lot of spelling. Did you have any
art courses, art classes?
Yes, that was maybe 15 minutes in the morning. We sang or had to do something. Okay. That was only 15 minutes in the morning before we started classes, yeah.
Living so close to school, did you take lunch for noon hour, or did you go home for
we went home, but we did take lunch.
You did take lunch?
And in the wintertime, because we had this flat part on the stove, so we took potatoes along and bread, and we made our toast and baked our potatoes on the stove.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
Did a lot of students do that?
Oh, yes.
Well? Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you have like a lunch pail that you?
Yes.
Okay.
But we had no thermos bottle like for coffee. Well, we had to take a quart jar, a pint jar with water.
Okay.
But we had our lunch pails, you know.
What would you take for?
And you know what we did at first? We had a gallon syrup pail. Years ago parents bought a lot of syrup for the bread. And when they were empty, we washed them out, and that was our lunch pail. We didn't go out. Mom and Dad didn't go out and buy a lunch bucket.
Huh. Well, we were talking about school, so we'll continue on with that. How well did you do in school? Were you a good student?
Real well.
Did you enjoy?
I liked school, yeah.
What would you say was your favorite subject that you just really looked forward to every day?
Let's see, spelling or reading and writing. Okay. Yeah. I have to say I'm the best writer in my family.
Really?
The others have all these little chicken hooks. I don't want to criticize, but...
It's nice to have good penmanship.
Yeah.
Were you allowed to speak German in school?
No.
No. What about at recess?
But we get caught.
You get caught. What would happen if you got caught?
Come and sit in your seat or go outside.
Was it hard for you to speak English when you started school?
No. I could, yeah.
Okay, so your parents at home, did you speak German?
Well, all the time German, yeah.
Okay.
Or
Did you
German.
ever speak English at home?
Not much.
Not much?
But we could speak English, yeah.
How did you learn English?
I guess from reading or...
Okay, so
it's by ourselves we did, yeah.
It wasn't something that was a kind of a culture shock when you started school. You were already familiar with both languages.
Oh, yes. Okay. Knew all the kids that went to school, except 2 boys, and they were with people that, like orphan children.
Okay.
And they were Finnish, 2 Finnish boys. One was a bad one, but the other one was nice, yeah.
Well, yeah. So was your school then? Um, did it consist of mixed ethnic groups, or was it predominantly German Russian?
No, everybody, yeah.
So you had
Finnish people, we had, but they were mainly German people, but we did have Finnish people.
Did the non-German people ever get picked on for not being German?
Oh yeah, they were named in Buskaruska.
Okay, yeah. What does that mean?
Well, dirty Russians. Something like that. It's on there. I shouldn't have said that. Oh. Doesn't hurt?
Did the children ever, what other types of things would the children pick on each other for? Was there a lot of teasing?
Oh yeah. It depends, especially years ago, you wore what you had at home. Mm-hmm. There was nothing the same color or what. Oh yeah, you got, especially the younger kids. When we first came to school, when you were young, you know, kids, snotty kids.
Did you ever get teased when you were a kid?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure, like everybody else.
Did you ever do the teasing?
Well, maybe I did. I'd get back to him. I was no better than the others.
What was recess and noon hour like?
And we went out plus playing, and it's like when it was warm. Otherwise, we stayed in the schoolhouse. Okay. Yeah.
What types of outdoor activities would you do?
Just playing ball, or NDI over, or make a goose ring.
A goose ring?
Yeah.
That?
Well, you had to stand in a certain place, and then they call a number or whatever, and then if you didn't get there on time, you had to go out, you know. Okay. It's games that they made up. But in the spring or on nice days, it was mainly ball playing, you know.
Okay. Did the girls play with the boys?
We all played together, yeah. And then sometimes there were girls that didn't cooperate. They played by themselves, yeah. Okay. Or just sit in the school. And we had one gal, she just liked to read, and she very seldom came out to play with us.
During the recess hours, would the teacher organize you guys into teams and stuff to play ball, or was it something you did on your own?
Oh, on our own, yeah. Mm-hmm.
During the winter months when it was cold and you stayed inside, what types of activities would you do to entertain yourself inside?
I don't know, just sit in their seat and do schoolwork or whatever. We couldn't be noisy, you know. Okay.
Let's see. Oh yeah, what was the composition of the school as far as, were there a lot more males than females, or were there more females than males, or pretty equal?
I think they were pretty equal. Okay. But after later in years, when the bigger boys were done with school, then it was about equal, yeah.
What would you say the expectations were at that time as far as school? Was it expected that girls go to school and get an education and continue on to high school, or was it something that you'll go through the 8th grade, then come home and
work at home?
House?
Yeah. Yeah, there was nothing that you had to go to high school, no.
Okay. What about for the males?
Same way.
Same way. Did you ever get into trouble at school?
Well, let's see. Yeah, I got in trouble one time. I was in back of the schoolhouse, and they played NDI over, and one guy came around, and I ran into him, and I broke my tooth. But it was my fault. You weren't supposed to be there at the same time.
So what did you do when you had to break your tooth?
Well, it was tipped on just the corner was chipped.
Okay.
But we never went to, my dad never took us to a dentist until it was a have to,
Oh, okay. So it must
till you got a toothache.
it had to be a pretty bad toothache for you to go to a dentist.
Yes.
Okay. When was the first time you went to the dentist?
Oh, man. Maybe 7th grade, 8th grade.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and we had a dentist in Wishick. He'd went in with a finger like this and got everything. Oh, yeah, they weren't so.
Sounds kind of painful.
Yeah.
How would you say your teachers influenced you? What were some of the things that you think back and say, I'm thankful for that teacher for doing that, or
I know.
did you have homework?
Oh, yes, we had homework.
How would you manage to do that?
Well, I'm leaving, yeah. After chores were done, sometimes we had supper before we did our chores, and sometimes most of the time we did chores, and then we had our lunch. Then we were done outside. And
Okay.
after the dishes were washed, then if we had homework, we did homework.
Did your brothers and sisters help you with your homework, or?
Well, if they could, yeah.
Did you help the younger ones with theirs?
Yeah, oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did your parents ever help you?
Well, they didn't know much, if they could, if we'd read the questions, sometimes they could.
Okay.
They could help, yeah.
What types of things would you have to do for homework?
Well, like if we have arithmetic, and maybe if we didn't get the assignment done on time, or if we had too many wrong answers,
Okay.
then we had to redo it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you have books in your home when you grew up?
Books?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Did you read a lot?
Not too much.
Not too much.
I'm not a very good, unless it's something really good. I'd rather stitch.
Do you remember any of the books that you had in your house when you were growing up?
Mm.
Or any of the books that you read in school while you were growing up?
Don't remember. Huh?
Okay. Comparing my childhood kind of to yours, something that was common when I was growing up is celebrating Halloween, Christmas, and Valentine's Day. Did you ever celebrate those holidays?
We did Christmas. We usually had a Christmas program.
Okay.
But and then sometimes we had programs on the Washington's birthday.
Okay, President's Day.
Lincoln is 12th of February, and Washington is the 22nd of February. And nowadays, I bet the younger people don't really know.
I think the only reason I remember it is because my friend's birthday falls on Washington. So.
And we used to have not Christmas, but programs then.
What type of program would you set up and do? What was
Well, we had dialogues. We had a play, and we had to memorize everything.
Okay.
Oh yeah, sometimes we had a pie social afterwards, or always something after for the people that came.
So would the parents of the kids come to watch the play?
Oh yeah, all the parents. I remember sometimes they came with the horses and sleds. Mm-hmm. We had so much snow in February. Yeah.
What were they Christmas plays?
Yeah.
Something to do with the birth of Jesus and.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what you played in any of those plays?
No. But I remember. We had Christmas tree, and I've got a candle holder laying there that we put on the trees.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. And did you decorate the schoolhouse then with?
Well, we did, but that wasn't that much decoration, okay. But we did have a little tree, and we made those. We cut paper and glued them together like chains.
The paper chains.
Chains.
Okay.
That was Christmas decoration.
You talked about the pie socials. Who would bake the pies?
Well, we all, the parents brought the
Parents would
pie.
bake them and then bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
What about Halloween? Was that ever celebrated?
No,
Or
we didn't ever.
Valentine's Day?
Valentine's, we always had to bring a Valentine for somebody else, a Valentine exchange.
Okay.
That's what it was, yeah.
Okay.
But that was nothing special, no.
Something that was mentioned in one of the other interviews was May Day. Was there any type of
Well,
celebration?
we went to the pasture and found crocuses,
Okay.
if there were. Sometimes I remember when we had our picnics down it was our pasture at that time. We'd take our lunch and have and that was March. We had our picnics already, and it was nice. So then we'd went around and see if we could find some crocuses.
Were there any other occasions that were celebrated in school?
Easter.
Easter, okay. How
We
was
bring Easter egg. Well, we didn't have. If it was in April, we didn't have school anymore.
Okay.
Easter. But if we have it in March. With colored eggs.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Or cookies.
Did you do like an Easter egg hunt or anything like that?
No. Or maybe we did, but I don't remember that.
Okay. Were you encouraged or discouraged from going to high school? I know you didn't go to high school.
No, I couldn't because my dad wouldn't let me go. Okay. And I didn't. I thought, the others, well, at that time, my other two sisters were still in grade school.
Did any of your other brothers and sisters go on to high school?
Both my sisters.
Younger sisters?
Mm-hmm.
Your sisters did?
And the boys didn't have any.
The boys didn't? How important was education in your family? Was it something that was stressed?
Well, yeah, no.
No?
Set another day.
Okay. Let's see here. Was anybody in your family ever seriously injured or ill or?
Well, cancer was in the family.
Okay.
But I don't think we had any injury that I know.
When you talked about missing that one day of school for a sore throat, did your mom have any special remedies or things she would do when you guys got sick?
Rubbing me with Vicks and put towels around my throat, or if I had a little bad cough, she put Vicks on my chest and a towel on my back and on my. That was the remedy, yes. Okay. And then when you go to bed and you sweat and feel much better the next morning.
Was there any other types of remedies that your mom or your grandparents did when you guys got sick?
Mm-hmm.
You got the flu or anything?
No, it was usually the same remedies pretty well, yeah.
Okay.
I used to have a lot of headaches. But there you take a big hanky or a cloth and soak it in vinegar water and put it on your forehead to take and that helps.
And that relieves the.
But I don't have headaches anymore.
Interesting. Well, looking at your checklist, you also checked community life, so we'll talk about community life.
Okay.
Would you consider yourself a country or an urban person? Country folk, rural folk, or urban folk?
No.
Then
a country, yeah.
Country.
Mm-hmm.
What did you what did you enjoy about living in the country?
Be outside, see all the wild animals, and just I'm an outside person. Love to do outside.
Now that you've lived in the town, what would you say is better, the country or the town?
Country, because where I live, I don't see the clouds coming in, and I don't see the wild animals like I used to. I miss that.
Seems to be a peacefulness about being
out there, yes.
What would you say was unpleasant about living out in the country?
Well, when we get real bad storm weathers in the summertime. Never knew when you see those black clouds coming in, what's in them.
Did you ever experience a feeling of isolation while you were growing up? Feeling of loneliness?
No.
You lived fairly close to some neighbors, too.
Yes,
So.
no, we didn't.
Okay.
And when, after I was alone, well, I was used to being alone. My husband was an electrician, so he was gone a lot. So
Okay. So
after the children were gone, So I was used to that. It didn't bother me alone.
Okay. You had the, who were your neighbors that lived right across from the schoolhouse? What were their names again?
Yeah, but Klein.
Klein. And then, did you have any other neighbors that were fairly close to you? No, those are the only ones.
We had some that lived maybe south of us. They were neighbors around, but not that close. They were the closest.
They were the closest.
Yeah.
Would they ever come over to help your family on the farm or?
No, they were kind of older people. And the young couple, they moved to Washington, the state of Washington. Ritzville, Washington.
Yeah. I know where that is.
Came that just rolled in.
Isn't it funny how some of those things just pop up?
You don't talk about it. But they're both gone, but they got children living out there, yeah.
Okay. Would they ever come over to help with a baby or if somebody was ill?
Oh, yeah. Mrs. Klein would, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Did they ever look after you if for some reason your parents were out in the field and they needed someone to watch you?
No.
Okay.
They took us out. I have a picture where I and my brother, I was a baby in the buggy and my mom was telling me, and when they were out in the field, they put the buggy out at the end of the row, and I was crying and he shook the buggy so hard, she thought he'd throw me out of the buggy. And then she went like this.
Oh.
I got a picture of that.
Oh, that would be, oh, jeez. Did your neighbors ever, did they ever have to discipline you as kids? Like yell at you or tell you to stop something or watch out, you're going to get hurt?
Oh, yeah, I guess so, yeah. Yeah.
So they always had an eye out for you. Did your mother and father have a lot of friends in the area? Were they always the same friends, or did your mother have some friends that were different from your father's friends?
No, they come as couples. Husband and wife, yeah.
Would they entertain at your
Oh,
house?
yeah. Years ago, when they did fancy work, they brought it with. And during the evening, they were crocheting or whatever they had. And the men would play cards.
So kind of like a quilting party or a crocheting?
Crocheting and whatever was handy.
Would they include you into that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
they were all friends that, I knew them pretty well, all of those that were there before, that I remember from the time we moved to Grandpa's place,
Would they have them over for supper?
Oh, yeah. Midnight lunch.
Okay.
Fried potatoes, the whole thing.
Really?
At midnight, yeah. Or whatever, if there was homemade ice cream, or always a dessert.
Huh. Sounds yummy.
But fried sausage, especially after November when everybody had butchered their hogs and beef.
Did your family participate in any like butchering type parties or gatherings where they?
Well, we always had, they were usually my dad's brothers that helped. Okay. But then their families were there. And that took 3 days until everything was processed.
Did you help with the process of
Oh, yeah, I helped, yeah.
What type of thing, what was your job?
Oh, I had to render the lard or cut the meat so it's ready grind it up for sausage. And, yeah.
Do you remember in the area that you grew up, were they mainly German Russians? Talk about the school had a little bit of a mixture, but the area.
But they came to visit, but they didn't come. The Finnish people didn't visit with as much as the German Russian. Yeah.
So your parents' friends were mostly German Russian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Do you remember if there were different, like today we have social classes. We have low class, middle class, high class people. Were there social classes at that time, or were just everybody was?
Everybody was the same. Yeah.
Okay. What was your family's attitudes towards different ethnic groups, like the Finnish or Norwegians?
I guess they didn't. They're people, they sure were there they're with their friends too in a way that, but only they didn't visit as often as with the Germans, yeah.
Probably with a little bit of a language barrier at times.
Oh yeah, we had one neighbor there, one of the Finnish, he could speak German just as good as we did.
That's great. Let's see here. Oh yes. What was when you would go into town? Were the town children? Did the town children ever treat the country children different when they went into town, or was it just all perceived?
Yeah.
All kids are kids.
Yeah, that's right. No, yeah. Oh no, and that was Saturday nights. We didn't. We never got into town in the daytime or in harvesting time. We had to stay at home and clean the house or get ready for Sundays, and Mom and Dad went to town to get groceries. Not very often. Sometimes we got to go, but sometimes we didn't. It depends on how busy especially at harvesting time.
Was it always a treat to get to go to town?
Oh yeah, oh yes. Yeah.
What town did you primarily go to? You went to
Gackle.
What was?
And later on, like when I started to go with my brother, we went to Fredonia. That's south. Yeah.
What was in the town of Gackle at that time?
Lots more than no. We had a grocery. We still have a grocery store, but we had a grocery store, and we had a clothing store. We had a drugstore. We just had everything.
Was there a
butcher shop we had?
Was there a fountain shop, a soda fountain in the drugstore where you
Yes,
could get ice cream?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Were you able to do that often when you would come to town?
Oh, yeah, we'd get a nickel or a dime only to spend.
Okay.
But you could buy a nickel or whatever ice cream cone. Yeah. And I remember the people that were in the drugstore at that time when I grew up. Yeah.
Was Gackle German Russian town, or was it?
Yeah. Well, you don't know the country that well, but Gackle was not here at first when they started a little bit. You know that when you read up on that. But it's mainly the German people, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Did you ever, when you came into town, did you ever feel uncomfortable speaking German? Or was it just...
We just talked to everybody, unless we knew somebody didn't speak it, then we did talk English, yeah. But later on, we kind of thought, well, we are Americans. We should speak American.
Were there places that your parents wouldn't let you go, or people that your parents didn't want you to socialize with when you would go to town?
Well, yeah, don't go certain places, in town, yeah.
What were those that they wanted?
Well, maybe go out of town or something that you never know.
Okay.
It's just like nowadays, too.
Just kind of be careful.
Be careful, yeah.
Looking out for your well-being. Okay. Looking back to your childhood and your family home, can you describe your house? What was your house like?
It was a big house.
How many rooms did it have?
We had 4 rooms upstairs. Okay. We had 1, 2. We had a bedroom and a big living room. There was no dining room in those days. It was kitchen, no bath, and an entry. That's about it.
Okay.
But
How
we
many?
we all had our room, like we girls had our rooms, and the boys had theirs.
And then your parents.
And their beds were downstairs, yeah.
Okay.
And then we had those registers on the floor to get the heat.
Heat, yeah.
And that was only like so much. It was pretty cold sometimes in the wintertime.
How would you keep warm?
Well, we had feather ticks. Boy,
How many people were there per room then?
just two, maybe.
Did you each have your own bed?
No, we slept in one bed.
Okay. What was the furniture like? What type of furniture did your parents have?
Oh, we had nice furniture, yeah. Davenports and nothing extra, but we had end tables and bedrooms. Beds, but there was no bed sets like nowadays. Yeah, later on maybe. No, Mom never had any. And then when televisions came in, we got Sears, I guess.
Did you have a radio?
Oh, yes.
Were you able to listen to that, or was?
Yeah, we used to have our ear right by the phones.
Do you remember what type of programs you would listen to?
Amos and Andy, 6 o'clock.
It was a regular, huh?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Was there any other ones that you would?
Oh, yeah, there was a Yankton station there. We always listened to that. Because there was lots more music then than nowadays. So.
Okay. What about newspapers? Did your family ever get any newspapers?
The Napoleon Homestead, that's our county seat.
Okay.
And then there was a German. I remember Grandma and Grandpa got there too. It'll come to me.
Okay.
Die Deutsche, it says cassette or something like that.
Okay.
It means like Tribune, something.
Mm-hmm.
It said Die Deutsche, German.
Mm-hmm. The German Gazette.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Okay.
Anzeiger. It says the Deutsche Anzeiger. Yeah.
You mentioned that you didn't have running water. Do you remember when running water came into your family home?
We had running water and got running water at home. I wasn't home anymore when they got it. Let's see, Linda was from 52. My mom had it maybe a year, maybe not even it. Let's see, maybe 2 years before she died. Because my daughter was born in 52, and Mom got sick that year. But she had fast cancer, and she died already in January then, in 53.
What type of cancer did you say?
Liver.
Liver cancer.
Mm-hmm. So she did say to Dad one time, I would sure like to have running water and a nice soft truck like other women do. The carpets. Mm-hmm. But Mom never got that. But she did enjoy running water, a little while.
What about electricity? Do you remember when the house got electricity?
I think we got electricity. We were at the same time as everybody was around there. Must have been in the 50s. I think it was 51 or 52 when we got the electricity.
In your family home, did you have a basement?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a full basement.
Mm-hmm. Did your Mom do a lot of canning?
Yes, yes.
So where would she store them?
Downstairs. Mm-hmm. And we'd made pickled watermelons in the big crocks or sauerkraut. The big crocks. Oh, yes.
Speaking of food, let's go to the food questions. What were some of the traditional German dishes that your mom made for you as a
Pigs
child?
in a blanket, mashed potatoes, strudels, and knäfles, and dumplings, and everything that sticks to the ribs.
Everything that tastes good going
Yeah.
down.
And kuchen and whatever, cake and whatever.
Who in your family prepared the meals? Your mom, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Did the girls also help out with
Oh, yes.
meal preparation?
Oh, yeah. After we were old enough, we had to help along, yes.
Okay.
And we had those old-fashioned cook stoves.
Mm-hmm.
And after we had all the bone meat and all that, and especially in the wintertime, they salted it and put it in barrels. And Dad would bring in a few bones in the morning, and we put it on the stove because that was always hot. By noon, the meat was all ready to eat.
Oh my!
Just simmered all the time.
Just all. Did the men ever help in the kitchen?
He did, but not much, and the boys didn't.
What type of things would your dad do every once in a while?
We come in the house, he'd sit and read the paper. Or I don't remember what he did special. Okay. Summertime, he was always busy outside.
Mm-hmm. Did your mom, when she's preparing these meals, did she ever prepare food to take out to like the threshing while they were threshing? What types of foods would she prepare?
We made sandwiches and maybe cake. Okay. Or in the fall when we had watermelons and muskmelons, and or fruit, whatever it was, and coffee all the time. That had to be early, twice a day for threshers, morning and in the afternoon. Okay. We had to get up early in the morning to feed the threshers so they could go out.
What would you usually make them in the morning?
Well, we had the full breakfast, bacon and eggs and sometimes pancakes, whatever, yeah. Okay. And then we had to go milk our cows when they were out in the field. Then we had to hurry and get the lunch ready and try to get the dinner ready. So it was a constant cooking, yes. Okay. That was in harvesting time, yeah. Okay. And when we did harvesting, there we had the headers where we put everything on a stack, like the wheat and that. Mm-hmm. And then we took our lunch along. We always had something to eat in the afternoon.
What type of sandwiches would you carry?
Well, whatever we had. We had tuna fish, or if we'd have a ham, whatever we had, leftover chicken or whatever.
Okay. When your family had their evening meal, would you always sit down at a table together?
We always did.
And would you say a prayer?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what prayer you would say before you would eat?
Kom er, Jesus, zij onze segnet. Grandpa used to do that one. Okay. But we did have our prayer, yeah.
Okay. Was there any certain order to the table where your dad would sit at this place or your mom here?
Yeah, well, they usually had their place and we had ours, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Were you allowed to talk while you over dinner, or?
Well, we could talk, but we had to keep it down. Okay. And if anybody got out of hand,
it was put to a
Basuf. Basuf, be careful.
Be careful.
Basuf.
Can you describe how you would prepare, like, from the time, when would you start preparing a meal, your evening meal? What time of day?
Depends on, usually we had our big meal at lunchtime.
Okay.
Unless that nobody was at home or we had leftovers. Oh, we started, maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock. It depends on what we fixed, yeah.
And then your father and your brothers would come in from working and they would sit down. Can you describe, you would eat and you could talk a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
What would happen afterwards? Who would do the cleanup of it?
Well, we girls did. They went out and did their job again, and we just did the dishes, yeah.
Okay. You've named off some of the foods your mother baked and cooked. What were some of your favorite foods that you looked forward to when your mom?
Oh, I loved the dough dishes.
The dough dishes?
I still do, but I don't make them very often.
Okay.
I like mashed potatoes. I like everything. I'm a good eater.
Was there anything that you just didn't like? You're like, oh, do we have to have this?
Yeah. Well, there's one German thing they call it Mumlik. It's made with cornmeal.
Okay.
I remember I was at my grandma's house one time, and that's all she made for supper, and then she put fried bacon, and put that grease over that. And then I said, do I have to eat that stuff? Well, there's nothing else to eat. Because like I said, they only made one thing.
Yeah, so you had to eat what was put.
Yeah. But that's the days were.
Besides the traditional German food that your mother baked and cooked, was there any other types of meals that your mother cooked quite often that were not necessarily German?
Well, no, we had a lot of soup. We like soup, like vegetable, borscht soup, or in the summertime when we had all the green vegetables, like the green beans and all that. That's what, and when our chickens were ready to use, boy, then we enjoyed really cooking.
Okay. You talked about canning and that your family did canning and butchering and sausage smoking. Did your family also make their own wine and beer or root beer?
We did beer for harvesting, yes. Okay. We made root beer and malt.
What is that process? How do you make root beer?
Well, root beer, you buy a bottle of mix.
Okay.
And add so much water and bottle it. But boy, bang, 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 sometimes it gets too strong in the basement.
What about beer? How did your family make beer?
Well, you had to put that into a crock and put yeast in it. Those soft square, I don't think you can buy those yeast. That's what we used. Okay. Until it's fermented, and then you take all the scum off and then you bottle it. But it takes a few days before that's ready to bottle.
Did the kids ever get into that before they were supposed to?
Well, I guess we had our drinks. But we mainly had it for harvesting.
Okay.
Because when it was so hot, we had that. And we had a root cellar up there at Grandpa's place, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else about food that you'd like to share with us? What types of food you had as a child? Well,
like liver sausage, you know that? Okay. Liver sausage.
Actually, we tasted liver sausage yesterday.
Oh, you did? Out at Buck's?
No, at Caseman.
Oh, at Caseman,
yeah. Adam brought out some liver sausage.
Okay, so. Yeah, and they call it Pressmager. That's, let's see, what do we say? It's a pressed, you put it in the ground up meat. I don't remember what you say it in English now, but that, and all the good food, But I don't care much for it. It's so really heavy. I don't remember. Well, anyway.
It'll come to us.
Yeah,
we're talking about something
like
else,
Ritzville.
What type of animals were on your farm? You've mentioned cows for milking and the cream and stuff, but what other types of animals did you have on your farm?
We had sheep.
You have sheep?
And horses. I think that's about it. We never had goats or anything like that. Pigs. We had pigs. Raised always our meat.
You had chickens because you had eggs.
And chicks and chicken and ducks and geese and sometimes turkeys.
Okay.
Oh, yes. We had in the fall, it seemed like when everything was ready to clean, that was till Christmas time. There was feathers and whatnot.
You described your family house. Looking at your farm, your homestead, your farmstead, how was that laid out? If you centered your house, and from where was the barns?
Okay, we had a summer kitchen.
Okay.
That was just a little ways from the big house. Okay. And we used that we cleaned it as soon as it got warm. We'd wallpaper it and clean it up, and then we did all our cooking, like for thrashing and what meals we made. That was done in the summer kitchen, and the big cook stove, and it got so warm in those hot days, but we didn't mind because there was no electricity or we just
air conditioner running or anything.
Yeah, and we baked, and we had to go out and find some kindling wood or whatever to keep it going, the fire. And
how did you, besides what else did you use to heat the house
in the wintertime? We had coal, lignite coal.
Where did your family get the coal from?
Well, they ship them into the elevators.
Okay.
I remember one time Dad got a load somebody got from Wilson or someplace. Okay. Yeah. And I was telling you about that homemade lignite we made.
You want to describe that process?
Oh, yeah, that's a long one.
But that's a good one, too. I really enjoyed hearing about that.
Yeah. When the sheep were in the shed all winter, when that builds up the manure, that had to be hauled out on a big plot. Well, it can be pretty big. It depends on. And then they kind of spread it out. And then after it got a little bit dry, they had rollers to roll it out. 2 about so thickness, about 2-3 inches. And then after they had a horse with I remember Dad had made one or whatever. It was a roller and they had one horse on the round and round and round it, trying to, and you kind of pressed that manure down. And then after it dried, so they could cut it with a spade, like maybe 10 or 12 inches square. And then they let it dry a little bit again, and then they stack it on 2, like so they could just stand up. So if the squares were strong enough, so they dry enough. And then after a while, they do it with one on top, and when they were way dry, then they were stacked together on a big stack or whatever. And that held the heat just as well as lignite coal did. So, they didn't have to buy too much fuel for the winter months.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It just surprises me.
Oh, and I didn't tell you, but I think I did when we picked cow chips, I and my sister.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
One summer, my dad had a pasture that hadn't been used for a while. We had to go out and pick cow chips, and we did it put it on piles. And after we were done, we took the horses in the wagon, and I think it was a wagon, and we hauled it home with a double box. We had 7 double boxes load of cow chips. And Dad had his traction machine in the shed all the time, and on the side, Mom would stack those cow chips. Okay. So we had more fuel there for the winter.
Keeping the house nice and toasty. So when you were upstairs in the rooms, were they pretty warm? I mean, or were they fairly cold?
It was cool. The winter one, it was real cold because we only had that little register on the floor,
Okay.
no other heat.
Okay.
But we were tucked in a
With the
feather ticks.
Well, then you had more than one person in the bed too,
Yeah.
with your body. So, okay. Okay. Well, we have the house, and we have a summer kitchen.
Okay. And then we have a garage.
Okay.
That's not far from the house.
Okay.
Kind of this way. And the summer kitchen. And then we had a barn that was kind of a little bit way off. That was our milk for the shed was the milk house, and the other part was the horses.
Okay.
And then we had a granary, and we had a pig barn. That's about it. But now my dad built the barn in '47. That was a big barn on the farm.
Okay.
And so it's changed some now. My brother put another big shed on it, which kind of improves there was more buildings on the farm.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you something. I just forgot what I was going to ask you. You mentioned something, and I was going to say something about it. How did your family gain possession of the land? Were they renting it? Did they buy it?
My dad, I don't think my dad ever rented. Okay. Not that when he, after the Depression years, as I remember, when they had a little money, I mean, they were kind of getting along much better. Then he bought the land. He started buying cheap land at first, so he had a way of doing it. Pardon?
He did fairly well for himself then. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, the roads to your farm, were they dirt roads, and how were they maintained?
We had graders.
Okay.
There was a man that had that job to grade the roads.
Okay.
I remember at first with horses, and then later on, I don't remember how. Oh yeah, they had motors like the graders now. Graders, yeah. Okay. But horses was at first.
My question came back to me.
Okay.
You grew up during the 30s, and something that has kind of been thrown around is the dirty 30s. So how did the dust and dirt affect your life? I mean,
well, it was when the wind came that the dirt was up in the air. Yes.
With being a girl in those times and responsible for house cleaning and house responsibilities.
Oh yeah.
How did you maintain your house?
Well, we had to do it. We had to do it. Because we had to do it we cleaned house every day. Like when we didn't have outside work, we always cleaned house. So.
Did you ever witness a really big dust storm?
Yes, there were big dust storms, yes. Mm-hmm.
What would you do to try to prevent it coming into the house?
Stay in the house or whatever, because you couldn't do anything else, yeah.
Do you remember the Depression and how that affected your family?
Well, yeah, I was confirmed in '36,
yeah.
When it was the real dry year. We just had to survive, tried to survive somehow.
Yeah.
We did. My dad had a way of doing it.
What type of farming equipment did your family have when you were growing up? What type? Did they have any?
They had a drill.
Okay.
You had a drag. You had to walk. Some of them had to walk behind the drag.
Okay.
Disc, plow, and horses. That's the way I remember starting.
Do you remember when they got their first tractor?
Maybe in the 50s.
How did that change the process of farming?
Oh, well, Dad had to buy bigger machines.
bigger things to be used with the
Yeah,
tractor.
yeah.
Thinking back to the fields and picturing the fields, what comes to your mind? How would you describe your family's farm, the fields? What types of things are
Oh,
out
they
there?
were kind of rolly. We had hills, yeah, which is kind of, it's not too high hills, but it's a rolly, yeah.
Primarily, what crops did your family grow?
Well, they wheat and barley and oats,
Okay.
and they had corn, and that's about it, I guess. They didn't have flowers or canola or like they do nowadays. It was strictly corn and oats, and because they feed the grind the oats for the cows, for the milk cows, and
Okay.
and then they had spells that they use for chicken feed. We did usually,
Okay.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What would you say were the positive aspects of growing up on a farm? What are some of the positive things about farm life?
Well, you stay on the farm. You don't go any other place. Yeah. Like my son used to say when he come home from school, yeah, here I got to go out and clean the barns and do chores, and the boys in town, they can go play basketball or whatever.
The farm is your life.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I guess he's so glad, and sometimes he said he wish he was on a farm.
Let's see here. What do we have to talk about? Oh, we never talked about your brothers and sisters.
Oh, my. Can't forget
Almost
them.
forgot that one. Well, how would you describe your relationship with your brothers and sisters?
Oh, we had good relationship, yes.
Do you remember where they were born? Were they all born on the farm? All born at the farm?
Everybody.
Everybody. Do you know who was present at the births?
Mrs. Klein, and I'm not sure about up to Rachel, but the two last ones were, actually, there's a Mrs. Mose, she delivered two, so we maybe had her, I'm not sure, Mom never said, but the last two were I know Mrs. Klein was Wilbert's, and Mary Lewis, yeah, the two youngest one, but us three, I don't know.
Okay. Do you know if there's any interesting stories about your births? If anything interesting happened during your births that was unusual, or
Everything must have gone good.
everything came well?
Except my youngest brother was stillborn.
Okay.
My mom said he was alive when she was in labor, but when he was delivered, he was stillborn.
Okay. So did they have a funeral for him?
Yeah, it's in there. I've got two brothers in the cemetery.
Which cemetery is that?
St. James, my home.
Where your mom and dad are buried?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you remember the funeral service for your little brother?
Mm-hmm.
Was there any competition between you and your sisters when you were growing up as far as...
Oh, yeah, because there was a world of difference between my sister next to me. My youngest sister and I got along very good.
Okay.
But my other sister her name was Rachel. Oh, she was always up in there so tight. She always wanted to do what she can do, and but she did have college, and she taught school, I think a few quarters or whatever.
What types of things would you compete for? Would you compete at school, like who could get better grades, or who could...
Yeah.
Yeah. Who usually won? Who
Oh,
the better grades?
well, I don't know. Well, they got high school and I didn't, so.
Okay. Did you compete as far as who could get the chores done fastest, or who could get Mom's attention
Yeah.
more?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, she did. Yeah.
She got Mom's attention
more.
What about racing or anything like that? Would you compete to see who was fastest, or?
I don't remember we did that.
Okay. What type of mischief could you get in, or did you get into with your sisters growing up?
I really have to think about it. I was a good girl.
That's what they all say. Come on.
Yeah.
Did you ever play tricks on your sisters, or did they ever play
No,
tricks
I
on
didn't
you?
dare. I didn't dare.
Why not?
She was so high strung.
Did
Yeah.
she ever play tricks on you?
No,
No.
not that I know from.
Okay. What types of things would you do when you weren't working with your sisters at home? Would they also sit down and do the embroidery?
No, she wasn't the type. No,
Okay.
no, she didn't do anything. Maybe read once in a while, but she said that's not for me. So she wouldn't do it.
Does she enjoy baking as you do now?
Well, she had to do it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If she enjoyed it, I don't know. She was a person. She was a party person, and she drank to the end. Yeah.
Okay. Did she have a good relationship with your parents, or was she always in trouble?
Well, she went when Mom said don't go, or when she went anyway. She didn't listen. When my mom said you don't do this, I didn't do it, but she did.
So she had a little bit of a rebellious side.
Yeah.
Okay. While you were growing up, did all of your brothers and sisters live with you at home, or was there a time when one of them left home and you were still on the farm with your mom and dad?
Well, we were all together, and my oldest brother got married in November, and we in December right away. So there was only the
Okay.
three at home. Yeah.
Okay. Um, if you had to, who would you say was your closest sister or closest brother?
Mary Lou, my youngest one,
Your youngest
sister,
one?
and Wilbert, the youngest brother, has two.
How would you describe your relationship with Mary Lou?
With Mary Lou,
Mm-hmm.
we could visit together. We can sit down and visit like you and I do now, but my other sister, you couldn't do that. So.
Did she also enjoy the crafts that you and your
Mary
mom
Lou,
did? Mm-hmm.
And she did start to crochet, but she had a big family, and she had to go and work to make a living.
Mm-hmm. What after once they reached adulthood, what did they all do for a living? You know, starting with your brother, what did he go into farming? He went into farming.
He farmed too, close by Dad, where Dad lived.
And then you married a farmer. So you
And and then when Rachel got married, they lived on the farm,
okay.
right by the school where I used to live. Yeah.
Okay. And then Mary Lou.
Mary Lou went to Carrington. Well, she married somebody that was out of the service, and he was doing depot agent work, so they were kind of going from one to the other place. But when their oldest child was old enough for school, they parked their trailer at my dad's place for a while. And then from there they went to Borchelaga in Carrington. Okay. That's Mary Lou went to work.
And then your younger brother?
It's right here in town.
Right here in town?
He's got a service station.
Okay.
Fixes cars. But they lived down the home place for a while, he and his wife.
Well, is there anything else about your brothers and sisters you would like to share with us today?
I'd like to be friends with them. I only got two brothers left.
Do you have a close family, would you say?
Yeah.
Right now?
My oldest brother lives in Jamestown, and the youngest lives right up the street.
So both your sisters have passed away?
Mm-hmm.
When did they pass away?
Well, my youngest sister died in 78, and my other sister died in 89.
And both of them died of cancer? cancer, isn't that what you said?
And my mom died in 53.
Your
and
mom had liver cancer. What did
and
Rachel have?
Rachel had on the ovaries. Her started.
Okay, and then Mary Lou.
Mary Lou started on her breast.
More and more I talk to people, anybody, not even necessarily with this project, you see how bad cancer really.
Wherever it seems like every other one you hear cancer, so.
It's true. Okay, we're going to do a couple concluding questions.
Okay.
What was the most stressful childhood experience that you had to live through?
For us family or?
Yeah, as in your childhood.
Oh, in childhood.
Something that you did that just really upset you, that was really hard for you to
Oh,
deal with.
well, I couldn't go away like my sister did. That kind of bugged me.
To go to high school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How did you?
But I'm an easygoing person. I can just shake it like so.
You just kind of
Can't do, yeah, just can't do it. And Dad doesn't want me to go, so. But Rachel did what she wanted, no matter what it was. She did it.
Did your dad want them to go to high school?
Well, they just went.
They just went?
They just went, yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know if Dad paid for their school or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember that, or if maybe I didn't know.
During your childhood, what was the scariest thing that you had to live through?
Scary.
Yeah. Something that was just unnerving or unsettling to you.
Not when I was at home, but when I was married.
Oh, what happened?
Well, I had a real rough man.
Oh, he wasn't.
He didn't understand fun, or when my kids laughed, he got mad, and he's just a mad person. So.
Did he have a rough life?
Well, the family, yeah. There was 14 children, and they're all the same, pretty well.
So was his father kind of the same way?
Very, very, very. He chased the kids away from the home. But, you just, when you're young, you get married, But it's all, like I always say, it's all history. Yeah. I have just a wonderful life. I can do it so I want to. And I do what I think is right.
Well, and you have great talent, obviously.
Yeah.
These beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. I made those out on the farm.
Oh,
they're old, yeah.
They're just gorgeous. I bet your daughters and the grandchildren just love this. They'll always have something to remember you.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, in fact, the daughter-in-law, when I was down at Easter time, she gave me an order what she wants.
It's like not ordering through a catalog. They just order through you.
My daughter is not married, so it's just her, so she said, I'm going to spend my money. She said, what would it be if I would have a husband like my dad was? She looks at it that way.
Was he pretty hard with the kids, too?
With all he treated me as a kid.
Oh, really? So there was no difference between you and your children? Okay.
Yeah, he was just an honorary guy. But anyway, it's all, like I say, history.
Yeah. During your childhood, what was the happiest time of your life?
Oh, happiest? Oh, I had some happy days, yeah. I enjoyed it when my uncle and aunts came to visit, or the school, I liked school and liked my teachers and all that. So I guess I had some good days at home.
What was the most adventurous thing you did during your childhood?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Sleigh riding in the snow.
That could be adventurous, depending on...
Well, when Marty Georgeson taught in school, my last teacher, my my oldest brother, we had a lot of snow that winter, and so he said, let's go to John Geisler's. They were neighbors up kind of like 3 miles or 2 miles. And so he took the bobsled and the horses, so we were all going for a sleigh ride. Well, we didn't get very far. He drove, the horses went to a snowbank, It tipped, so we all laughed, and we were off the snow. We picked it up and went back on again. That was fun those days, the sleigh rides.
Like most kids would, yep. You fall off, you get back on
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Hmm. Is there anything else about your childhood that you would like to tell us or share with us that we haven't asked?
I think I have a pretty good childhood, yeah. Work, work, work.
That seems to be a common theme in
Yeah.
this era.
Well, we people all, that's all they knew. And Mom and Dad never went away because there was too much work to do.
It was a need for survival versus to sustain the lives the family. You've done another documentary on food, and you're doing this, and you've helped a lot with preserving German-Russian heritage. Why do you think it's important to tell your life story?
I don't know. Why is it?
Why is it?
Yeah.
Well, why?
Oh, you know, sometimes I start talking about my days and so, but I don't know. You know, you think, oh, well, why people have to know? But I mean, I didn't really do anything extra. I worked for my uncle and aunt one time. I got a cap for my wages. And otherwise, I spent at home all the time. I was confirmed in Judd. That's a little town.
That's the same town your mom was confirmed in, isn't it?
Streeter. She was a
Streeter.
Streeter. And I was Judd. Yeah, that's when the St. Jean Church was separated, and the Gackel and Streeter. And then finally, St. James, my church, we all came into Gackel.
Okay.
And Streeter. The Neudorf also came. This is Neudorf Church. This way, we always had the Neudorf settlement. And then they came into Gackel too.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you think your life experiences on the farm has shaped who you are today?
It's because I liked it better out there. I was alone, and there were so many things you see out there, and I don't know. At first when I came in that town, I thought, oh, why did I move to town? You have more privacy out there.
A country girl at heart. Are there any other thoughts or observations that you would like to share during this interview today? And I know you've already done a lot of this, but is there anyone else you would like to suggest for us to interview?
Some more to interview. I think we gave you all of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, you may have nobody else to ask.
Yeah, because we all went down in town here he said something like 80 and up in that age or upper 70s, yeah.
Okay. Well, then I think we're done with the question part.
Okay.
And what we'll go ahead and do is we'll walk around with the camera, and you can tell us about some of the pictures you have up here.